Last year, I had a super creepy experience while road tripping alone with my dog, Yuka, through a national forest in California. I love camping in places like national parks and forests because they're quiet, isolated, and free, which is perfect for letting Yuka roam. Sure, the drives can be rough, and there's no cell service or help nearby, but I'm used to that trade-off. I was cruising up this winding dirt road on a mountain around 5 p.m. It was a nice day, sunny, warm, with a light breeze. But the second I started climbing, this heavy, uneasy feeling hit me, like I shouldn't be there. It didn't go away either. I kept texting my boyfriend about how weirded out I was until my phone lost signal completely. I looked around for any sign of people, tire tracks, footprints, anything, but saw nothing. I pulled over at one point, got out with Yuka, and peeked over the edge of the road. There was a dead squirrel and some shattered glass mixed in with the dirt and gravel. Yuka, who's usually pretty chatty but rarely growls, started making this low, rumbling noise. She's only growled at other dogs before, maybe once at a possum, so I figured she might have smelled something off. The whole vibe was giving me the creeps, but I'm stubborn and love solo adventuring, so I decided to push on a bit farther to find a spot to camp. As I kept driving, I noticed more dead animals along the road. Now, you're not exactly speeding up a mountain like that, maybe 5 or 10 miles an hour tops, so it was weird to see so many. Then, out of nowhere, I heard voices. They sounded close, like people talking nearby. I thought about calling out to see if someone was around, but something in my gut told me to stay quiet. I couldn't make out what they were saying, and I didn't see a single sign of anyone. No cars, no tents, nothing. I got back in my car, kept driving super slow, scanning for where the voices might be coming from. The thing is, I've never run into other people this deep in a national forest before. The voices faded in and out, and that uneasy feeling just got worse. Finally, I said screw it, turned the car around, and started heading back down. I don't even remember how Yuka was acting on the way down. I was too freaked out, focused on getting the hell out of there. I do remember being surprised when she growled earlier, standing outside the car. I ended up driving down the mountain way faster than I should have, not seeing a soul the whole way. In the end, I decided to treat myself and got a hotel room for the night. I told myself I was just spooked by the vast, empty space. The voices could have been echoing from far off, sounding closer than they were. Animals die, glass breaks. Nothing happened, right? But that place stuck with me. Every time I watch a scary movie or walk Yuka in the woods at night, that eerie feeling comes back. Nothing compares to the dread I felt driving up that mountain. It's weirdly fascinating, but also terrifying. Fast forward to yesterday, I was on another road trip with my boyfriend, wrapping up a trip to Wyoming for a wedding. We had a couple hours left to drive, and it was dark, so we decided to listen to some spooky podcasts and YouTube videos to pass the time. We started with a no-sleep podcast, moved to X-Files stuff, and ended up on a true scary stories video about Native American lore. I was half listening, petting Yuka, and playing Pokemon on an emulator when the narrator mentioned Wendigos. They gave a quick rundown of what they are and casually noted that Wendigos can mimic human voices. I swear the worst chills I've ever felt shot down my spine. I looked at my boyfriend and asked if he remembered that creepy forest I told him about last year. He did, and he reminded me that he'd texted me, half joking, that I was probably near a Wendigo. I checked our old texts, and sure enough, he'd said it, mentioning the voices specifically. At the time, I thought he was just messing around, like saying Bigfoot was stalking me or something. But he said he brought it up because I mentioned hearing voices I couldn't trace. I started Googling Wendigos, digging into whatever I could find. Some legit sources, some personal stories. Apparently, they're known for mimicking voices and are said to haunt remote areas like the one I was in. It all lined up too perfectly, and it freaked me out. Then I looked up missing persons cases in that forest. The first headline I saw was about another family vanishing. I dug deeper, finding news articles buried under all the pretty park photos, and learned over 100 people had gone missing there in the last 8 years, some found dead, some never found. I googled the forest a year ago and didn't find much, so seeing all this now made it feel like these stories were being hushed up. That gut punch feeling from the mountain came rushing back. Yuka and I are super close. She's a stray I picked up in Costa Rica, and her growling that day felt like a warning. I've traveled solo a ton, in and out of the US, and I've never felt anything like that before. The dead animals, the voices, the total lack of people. It was all so off. I don't think I'll be solo camping in remote places anymore, at least not far from civilization. When I was around 12, my family moved into a brand new house, the first ones to live there. It was just me, my parents, and my cat, and at first, everything seemed normal. But then some seriously weird stuff started happening, and it stuck with me ever since. One night, probably around 11 p.m., I was in my room when my computer monitor, which I had hooked up to a cable box, suddenly turned on, and the TV blared at full volume. It scared the absolute crap out of me and my cat. I jumped out of bed, shut it off, and just as things got quiet, I heard footsteps coming from the laundry room, followed by the garage door slamming shut. I was too spooked to check it out and just stayed in my room, heart pounding. A few days later, I was reading in bed when I glanced at my doorway and saw a pale white face peeking in. It was there for a split second before it slipped out of sight. I froze, not sure if my eyes were playing tricks, but it felt way too real. A couple months after that, I got up around 11 p.m. to grab a snack from the kitchen. For some dumb reason, I didn't turn on any lights in the hallway, figuring I'd just flip on the kitchen once. As I got to the end of the hall, I glanced toward the dining table and saw something standing in the corner. It looked like a person with a sheet draped over them, or something. I stared for what felt like 10 seconds, totally calm for some reason, then walked over to turn on the light. When I looked back, it was gone. Poof. Nothing there. Things quieted down after that, but I'd still catch glimpses of stuff out of the corner of my eye. I usually brushed it off as being sleep-deprived or whatever, but deep down, it always felt too vivid to be my imagination. One night, around 1 a.m., I was chilling in the living room, watching TV on the couch, when there was a loud bang against the window behind me. It sounded like a huge bird or something slammed into it, but at 1 a.m., that's unlikely. I was too freaked to look and convinced myself it was maybe an owl or something random. When I was 13, weird stuff with objects started happening. One morning, my dad woke me up early, asking where my lunch bag was. I told him it was in the second pocket of my backpack, like always. I got up to check, and it wasn't there. I figured I'd left it at school and went back to sleep. An hour later, I checked again, and there it was, right where it was supposed to be, with yesterday's leftovers still inside. My dad swore he hadn't found it or put it there, and I believed him. It was so bizarre. Then, when I was 14, I came home from school one day to find a bathtub faucet completely taken apart, with all the pieces neatly stacked on the toilet. I called my dad, and he swore he hadn't touched it. He actually got mad and blamed me for it, which made no sense. At 15, something kind of funny but still creepy happened. I was in the shower, and suddenly the water turned ice cold. There's no way I'd used up all the hot water that fast. When I turned around, the handle had been switched to cold. It was like whatever was messing with me wanted me to wash my hair in freezing water or something. I laughed it off, but it was unsettling. These experiences weren't always in your face scary, just strange. I've had so many weird moments in that house that maybe I've gone a bit numb to them. Still, they've always felt too real to just be my mind playing tricks. When I was around 14 or 15, some weird stuff started happening in our new house, and it really creeped me out. One time, I was hanging out in the living room with my cousin while the rest of the family was chatting in the dining room or front room. The living room's right next to the kitchen, so you can always see the trash can, which has one of those flip-up lids. While we were talking, something made us both turn our heads, and we watched the trash can lid flip open on its own. We got up to check, thinking maybe someone tossed something and left, but everyone was still in the other rooms, playing games or talking. We figured it might have been the vent above the trash can causing it to move, but we were both pretty spooked and didn't bring it up again. Then there was our babysitter. My dad was deployed in Iraq, and my mom worked nights, so we had this babysitter who was only like 5 years older than me. I liked hanging out with her, but she usually slept in the guest room. After a while, though, I noticed she started crashing downstairs instead. One day I asked her why, and her face went pale. She asked if anything strange had ever happened to me in the house. I thought about the trash can thing, but didn't say anything. She went on, saying it might sound crazy, but she thought something was off in the guest room. One night, she felt uneasy, checked on me and my sister, and saw we were both asleep. Back in her room, she noticed a statue doll on the nightstand staring at her, or at least it felt like it. As she was drifting off, she heard whispers coming from the vent. She checked on us again, but we were still out cold. She didn't say more and just went to sit on the couch, leaving me kind of stunned. Later, when I was 17, we got a new Chihuahua who slept in my sister's room every night. One night, my sister showed up at my door, asking if she could sleep with me because the dog was freaking her out. I was half asleep and just scooted over to make room. In the morning, she explained that as she was about to fall asleep, the dog jumped off her lap, started whining, and stared at the vent. Then it started barking like crazy, so she grabbed the dog and came to my room. That vent thing reminded me of the babysitter's story, but I tried to shake it off. A couple weeks later, my little cousin stayed over. One slept in my sister's room, the other in mine. I didn't want to sleep in the guest room, so I took the floor in my room while my cousin took my bed. In the middle of the night, I woke up in my pitch-black room and noticed my closet doors were open. I grabbed a blanket earlier, so maybe I left them that way. I started feeling super nervous, just staring into the closet. Then I heard a growling sound. On the top shelf, I had this old iDog toy, the kind you hook up to an iPod to play music. It would light up and move based on the song, green for happy, yellow for chill, red for angry. I hadn't touched it in weeks because the batteries were dead, but as I looked, its face lit up red, growling and moving back and forth. I tried to wake my cousin, but she was too far up on the bed, and I was too scared to move. I just sat there, staring, until it finally stopped. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I chucked that iDog in the trash and started tying my closet doors shut with a rope whenever I changed or needed something in there. I noticed there was a vent near the closet too, which didn't help. Years later, I'm 25 now, still living at home while finishing school. My sister's in New York for college. My parents split up, and my dad moved out. My mom's often out with friends, so it's usually just me and my boyfriend. My room has a single bed, so we sleep in the guest room since he hogs the space. One night, my mom was out of town, and I came out of the bathroom to find my boyfriend staring at the vent in the guest room. When I asked what he was doing, he said he swore he saw something come out of it, but it was probably just a bug. I didn't think much of it, and we went to bed. That night, I woke up from a nightmare. PTSD makes those pretty common for me lately. My boyfriend was snoring, facing away from me. I got up to take some meds, and when I came back, he was standing under the vent. I teased him, saying, "What, the bedbug's back?" He didn't answer. I sat on the bed, the room lit only by moonlight, and said, "Babe, come back to bed." Still nothing. Then I said, "You're freaking me out." He turned, looking confused, and asked if my mom was out of town. I nodded, not sure where he was going with it. He said he heard a faint yell for help coming from the vent. We figured he was probably dreaming and went back to sleep, but I barely slept after that. The next weekend, he fell asleep first, and I was up reading. After turning off the light and cuddling up, I was about to drift off when I swore I heard my sister's voice calling my name. I looked around, nothing. I figured I was half dreaming and tried to sleep again, but then I heard it clearly, coming from the vent. Then a whisper, "Over here." I knew I wasn't dreaming. I shook my boyfriend awake, told him what happened, and he insisted it was just a dream trying to calm me down. He hasn't stayed over since. I don't want to sleep in the guest room, and my own room feels off too. I keep thinking something's in the vents, waiting to lure me closer. I'm planning to move out as soon as I can. Back when I was 19 or 20, living with my parents, I had 2 cats who always slept in my room. My setup was simple: bed against the wall across from the door, a dresser at the foot of the bed, and a closet to the left of the dresser. I had this ceiling fan with a remote to control the light and settings, which was awesome because I hated getting up to turn stuff off. One night in mid-November, I woke up out of nowhere in the middle of the night. I don't know what jolted me awake, but I heard a rustling sound coming from my closet. I kept some boxes in there and usually left the left door slightly ajar so the cats could slip in and out. I figured one of them was messing around, but when I rolled over, my boy cat was curled up right next to me, where he always slept. I propped myself up and spotted my other cat's silhouette at the foot of the bed, fast asleep. My brain was foggy, and I was annoyed at being woken up, so I didn't think much of it and tried to go back to sleep. I dealt with weird stuff my whole life, so a little noise wasn't a big deal. But then I heard something slide across the floor from the closet to the end of my bed, like a stuffed animal or cat toy being dragged. I glanced over, both cats were still out cold. Now I was starting to panic, lying there in the dark, trying to stay as still as possible. I fumbled for the fan remote to turn on the light, found it, and pressed the button. Nothing happened. Then I felt something hop onto the foot of my bed, about the size of a cat. I don't even remember what my cats did, whether they bolted or just stayed chill, but this thing started moving up the bed. I could feel the sheets shifting under its weight. I kept mashing the light button, but it wouldn't work. Suddenly, this thing was on top of me, scratching in my stomach. It felt like it had fur or hair or something. I started screaming my lungs out, hoping my parents would hear and come running. I don't know if I was yelling actual words like help or just shrieking in terror. The thing started talking to me, saying it's October over and over. I was so confused on top of being scared out of my mind. It was November, not October. Was it saying its name was October, or what? I was too freaked to think straight. I kept screaming, and then just like that, the scratching stopped, and the thing was gone. Vanished. I hit the remote one more time, and the light finally flicked on. I don't even recall where my cats ended up or how I fell back asleep, but I did. The next morning, I found scratches on my stomach. When I told my parents about it and asked why the heck they didn't come when I was screaming, they said they never heard a thing. My mom mentioned she woke up that same night feeling like something was watching her. She looked across the room and saw glowing eyes, like from a small animal, staring at her. My dad chimed in about a dream he had that night about a small, furry creature, but I don't remember the details. The fact that they both had weird experiences that night made me feel like I wasn't losing it, but it still gives me chills. I've got no clue what that thing was, some kind of demon, sleep paralysis, or what. All I know is it was terrifying, and I still wonder what it meant by October. A couple days ago, I went out drinking with my ex, Carter, and his buddy Paul. Carter and I are still good friends, sometimes with benefits, and we occasionally hook up with his friends for fun. No judgment, please. Carter's about to go on probation and won't be able to drink, so he wanted to hang out. Paul, who's 22, had just broken up with his girlfriend and was done with relationships. He's got this husky build, short blonde hair, and these beady blue eyes behind glasses that kind of remind me of a serial killer vibe, but whatever. We had our night, did our thing, and afterward, Paul offered to drive me home since Carter can't drive. His license got yanked, and he's in classes to get it back. It was supposed to be a hot day, and I didn't feel like walking, so I said sure. On the way, Paul asked if we could pull over for a quick hookup, but I turned him down. I only do that stuff because Carter's into it, not for random guys. Paul dropped me off, said he'd hit me up to chill sometime, and made it clear he wasn't looking for anything serious, which was fine by me. He added me on Snapchat, but didn't message, so I figured he was just another fling fading into the background. Then, at 2:30 a.m. today, I woke up to Paul sitting on my bed, squeezing my leg. At first, I thought it was my brother JJ, who sometimes comes in when he has nightmares. But then I realized JJ wouldn't grab my thigh like that. I opened my eyes, and there was Paul, just staring at me. He said, "Hey, you texted me earlier, so I thought I'd swing by." I checked my phone. Nothing, no text between us. I was groggy, not fully processing, so I mumbled that it was late and he needed to leave. He kept his hand on my thigh, saying, "You sure you don't want me to stay? You okay?" I came to hang out. By now, I was wide awake, and my gut was screaming that something was wrong. I told him again to go, and he finally stood up, saying to call him tomorrow. I grumbled, "Yeah, sure, just get the hell out." He stood there for a minute, then asked me to walk him to his car. I said no, obviously, but he kept pushing, like, "You sure you don't want to walk me out?" It was weirdly insistent, but I held firm, saying he needed to leave because I had to be up at 6:45. I heard him start down the hallway, and I finally relaxed a bit until he came back. He said, "Hey, there's someone downstairs, so I really need you to walk me out." I was pissed now. This guy broke into my house, woke me up, and now he's demanding I escort him? I snapped, "Paul, I'm not getting out of bed. Just go out the back door. Nobody's going to bother you." He finally got the hint, and I heard him head downstairs and the door shut. I waited about half an hour, then checked to make sure he was gone and locked all the doors. When my aunt woke up around 4 a.m., I told her what happened. She said to come get her if it happens again. I also texted Carter about it. I haven't told my dad or uncles because I don't want them blaming Carter, but I know I need to. For a second, I thought I was overreacting, like maybe I was being too harsh because of my lifestyle, but my aunt said no normal guy would do this, and it's not my fault or Carter's. I'm having JJ sleep in my room tomorrow just in case Paul shows up again. The whole thing was so damn weird, especially how casual Paul was about breaking in. My dad's not the kind of guy who scares easily. He's ex-British Army, tough as nails, and about as practical as they come. Back around 1975, not long after he started driving lorries, he had an experience that shook him to his core. It was about 5 a.m. on a summer morning, the kind where a light mist hangs in the air, but the sky's already starting to brighten. He was hauling his lorry out of London on the A3, back when it was just a regular road, before they dualed it and threw up all those barriers. Up ahead, he spotted a young woman, maybe in her early 20s, standing by the side of the road. She was wearing a long blue dress, just standing there, looking a bit out of place. Dad figured she was probably waiting for a lift to work or something like that. Nothing too unusual, right? But just as he was about to pass her, she stepped, no, jumped, right in front of his lorry. He slammed on the brakes, heart pounding, certain he'd hit her. He didn't feel a thud or anything, but how could he not have? She was right there, in the middle of the road. A couple of cars behind him pulled over, probably wondering what the hell was going on. Shaking like a leaf, Dad explained what happened to the other drivers. They were kind enough to stick around while he checked under the lorry, expecting the worst. He looked, they looked, nothing. No body, no blood, no sign of her anywhere. It was like she'd vanished into thin air. The thing is, the other drivers saw her too. They all saw this woman in the blue dress, clear as day, and now she was gone. Everyone was freaked out, standing there on the side of the A3, trying to make sense of it. In the end, they just decided to get back in their vehicles and drive off. What else could they do? Dad's never been able to explain it. He's dead certain she was there, and he's equally sure he hit her, or would have if she was real. That moment stuck with him, and for the rest of his career as a lorry driver, he avoided that stretch of the A3 like the plague. Even now, he'll tell you he doesn't know what he saw, but he knows it wasn't right. That misty morning changed him, and he's never looked at that road the same way since. Back in 2004-2005, my dad bought this beautiful house with a massive backyard in a quiet neighborhood. I don't know much about the area's history, never looked into it back then, and I haven't since, so I can't say if there was anything significant about the place. After we moved in, I spent some time exploring the backyard and found this old, worn-out path right in the middle of the garden. It looked ancient, like it had been there forever. If you followed it, it led to this run-down shed, or at least what was left of one half hidden in the woods. Something about that shed always felt off to me, like it was tied to the house or the property in some weird way, but I could never put my finger on why. Now, my dad's not the type to believe in ghosts or anything spooky. He was raised Catholic, same as me, and we weren't into paranormal shows or anything like that. Sure, we'd watch a scary movie now and then for fun, but that was it. Around the time we moved into the house, Dad got married to his new wife, who brought her youngest son along to live with us. For the first year, everything seemed pretty normal. But their marriage started falling apart fast. Lots of fighting, yelling, the works. I'd visit on weekends, and my stepbrother would fill me in on all the drama. One night, I went to the kitchen to grab something, and my stepbrother followed me, like he always did. He started talking about how his mom and my dad might be headed for divorce, but then he brought up something else, some really weird stuff happening around the house. He said when he was playing video games with his door open, he'd catch glimpses of things moving out of the corner of his eye. He also swore he'd hear someone walking on the carpet in the hallway, but when he checked, no one was there. I brushed it off, thinking he was just trying to mess with me or scare me for laughs. I mean, I wasn't about to buy into ghost stories. A couple of weeks later, Dad's wife, well, ex-wife by then, moved out and took her son with her. That left a couple of empty rooms in the house, including one right next to my bedroom. The house was laid out long and narrow, like a stretched out rectangle. My room and the empty guest room were on one side, the living room and kitchen were in the middle, and then on the other side were Dad's room and another guest room. One long hallway tied it all together, and let me tell you, I grew to hate that hallway. After they moved out, I started noticing stuff too. I'd see things moving just out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned to look, nothing was there. At night, I'd hear what sounded like footsteps in the hallway outside my room. At first, I tried to convince myself it was nothing, but after a while, I couldn't ignore it anymore. There were other weird things too. Little noises, shadows, stuff that just didn't add up. Finally, one weekend, I couldn't take it anymore and spilled everything to my dad. Turns out he'd been noticing weird stuff too. We started keeping a log of it all in a Word document. Wish I still had it, but it got lost somewhere along the way. We wrote down everything. Shadows moving, voices whispering, footsteps, lights flicking on and off when no one was around. I won't lie, I was scared shitless. The empty room next to my bedroom was the worst. I'd hear what sounded like people walking around in there, right up against the wall, and sometimes soft voices talking in the middle of the night. It got so bad I'd stay up all night, too terrified to sleep, blasting my radio or TV to drown out the sounds. I was a wreck. I started telling my friends at school about it, but they just laughed it off, thinking I was making it up. One weekend, I convinced a friend to come over and see for herself. She got to the house, dropped her bags in my room, and we hung out in the living room, which was still pretty close to my bedroom. I always kept the door to that creepy empty room closed tight because it freaked me out so much. My friends started teasing me, saying the whole ghost thing was bullshit and I was just imagining it. Then, out of nowhere, we heard a doorknob turn in the hallway, followed by the slow creak of a door opening. I nearly shit myself. I peeked down the hall, and sure enough, the door to the empty room was half open. No one else was home, just us. Things got worse after that. The activity in the house ramped up, and Dad and I were at our wits' end. We ended up contacting a local paranormal team, one tied to Taps, to come check the place out, just for some peace of mind. Their investigation backed up everything we'd experienced. They said they thought the spirits were children, nothing malevolent, just playful, like they were trying to get attention. During the investigation, we even caught an EVP of a little girl's voice. And let me tell you, that sent chills down my spine. I can still hear it in my head. The activity didn't stop after the investigation, though. It kept going, and it was driving me nuts. I was dreading every visit to Dad's house. It was starting to mess with my relationship with him and honestly screwing with my mental health. I was terrified to be in the house alone, let alone stay the night. I know it sounds silly to be scared of kid ghosts, but I didn't know who or what they were, and that made it worse. One weekend, I hit my breaking point. The activity was out of control, and I was done being scared. I've been sleeping with a rosary on my doorknob, too freaked out to even close my eyes most nights. That night, I marched into the dark hallway, threw open the door to the empty room, flipped on the light, and just let loose. I yelled at the top of my lungs, "You're not allowed to scare me anymore. You're not welcome here. You need to leave, go find your own family, and leave me alone." My heart was pounding like crazy. I bolted out, switched off the light, and slammed the door shut. What happened next, I'll never forget. That night, I had a dream, or at least I think it was a dream. It didn't feel like a normal one. In it, I woke up in my room, and everything looked exactly like it did when I went to sleep. My nightlight was on. My radio was playing softly, just like real life. But somehow I knew I was dreaming, or something close to it. I looked toward my door, and it slowly creaked open. Standing in the doorway were 3 kids, an older girl, maybe 10, a younger girl around 5 or 6, and a boy about the same age. They just stood there, staring at me. Their clothes looked old, like something from the late 1800s or early 1900s. Their faces were so strange, sad, but also kind of blank, like those old-timey photos where no one smiles. They stared at me for what felt like forever, then turned, looked down the hallway, and walked away. That's when the dream ended. I shot awake, sweating buckets, and my room looked exactly like it did in the dream, except the door was closed. I didn't dare get out of bed to check the hallway, and honestly, I'm glad I didn't. After that night, the activity just stopped. Dad didn't notice anything weird anymore either. The people who rented the house after us never reported anything strange, as far as I know. To this day, I'm not sure what I experienced, whether it was a dream or something more real. It felt so vivid, but I knew I was asleep, or at least I think I was. That whole ordeal changed me. I was 18 when it happened, and I'm 21 now, but I'll never forget it. Ever since, I've felt sensitive, I guess. I still have weird dreams sometimes, ones that feel a lot like that night. My dad and I definitely believe in ghosts now, no question. We still can't explain what happened in that house, but it was the creepiest thing we've ever been through. My brother, my mom, and I moved into this new house that seemed like a steal at first. You walked in through the front door straight into the living room. There was a hallway with a bathroom right ahead, 2 bedrooms on the left, another bedroom on the right, and an opening to the kitchen. The kitchen led to the backyard and had this open doorway, no door, which I thought was weird as hell, leading to the basement stairs. The basement was fully finished by the time we got there, but you could tell it used to be a mess. The previous owner, some guy who worked at a lumber yard and was handy, had fixed it up. Downstairs, there was a concrete room with closet doors at the bottom of the stairs, a workbench with cupboards, and all the windows had bars on them. Then you go up a few steps to a big, carpeted open room with office-style ceiling tiles covering the insulation. The basement bathroom and laundry room had this dingy tiled floor, a busted-up toilet, and a cellar door with coat hooks on the wall. I know this sounds like a lot of detail, but trust me, it all matters. The landlord bailed for a 6-month vacation the day after we rented the place and gave us some sketchy dude's number for repairs, which was weird from the start. My brother was 21, I was 18, and we were left alone a lot since Mom worked late or stayed at her boyfriend's place. At first, it was great, freedom, but then I started noticing creepy shit in the house. The cellar door in the basement bathroom had these claw marks on the inside, way too high up to be from some random animal. I figured maybe the old owner had a big-ass dog they were mean to or something. Then I noticed marks on the outside of the door, like there used to be a lock there. That got my attention. A few days after we settled in, I heard a noise coming from my closet. I opened it, and there were a bunch of old newspapers scattered on the floor, like ancient ones. I looked up and saw a perfect square hole cut into the ceiling. I grabbed a flashlight, poked my head up, and saw nothing but rafters stuffed with more old newspapers, probably used as insulation way back when. It made me realize just how old this house was, and I got curious. I started checking every closet in the place. The hallway and guest room closets were normal, but when I checked Mom's room, my brother had the basement bedroom. I found what looked like a seam in the ceiling. I pushed on it, and a square panel popped up like a hidden hatch to the attic or something. It looked like you could pull yourself up there if you tried. I told my brother about the claw marks in the attic hatch, and he agreed it was creepy, but just shrugged it off. I've got a wild imagination sometimes, so I didn't blame him for not taking it too seriously. A few days later, my brother got home from work, and we were in the kitchen making dinner, just chatting. Out of nowhere, we heard this loudest banging coming from the basement, right at the bottom of the stairs. We both froze, grabbed whatever was closest. Think it was a spatula and a knife, real badass weapons, and headed down, sure someone had broken in. When we got there, all the closet doors at the bottom of the stairs were wide open, and the banging had just stopped. We searched every inch of that basement, but there was no one. Then my brother pointed out something weird. The cabinet above the workbench had shifted, like it wasn't even attached to the wall. He tugged on it, and the whole thing moved. He opened the cupboards, and when he pushed on the backing, it just fell off, revealing a dark opening in the wall. He shined a flashlight down it, and it looked like it went on forever. Then he pulled out these sheets of white powder he found in there. God knows why he even touched it. Could have been anything, but we didn't mess with it. We closed the cabinets, and I jammed a piece of wood through the handles to keep them shut. We called Mom and our family friend Jim, this big dude who knew a ton about the city and construction. Jim said the powder was probably just baking soda, likely used to cover up some musty smell down there. He also said our basement might be connected to old underground tunnels that used to run through this part of town. Most of them were blocked off, but wind could still blow through and maybe cause the banging. It was kind of comforting, but it didn't explain why all the closet doors were open or why the hell the cabinet had a false back. That wasn't the only weird thing either. Doors and cabinets we swore we closed would be open when we checked later. We kept hearing noises too, and there was this constant feeling in the basement like someone was watching you. It got so bad my brother moved out of the basement room and into the guest room upstairs. Mom got sick of us complaining and finally called the landlord about the previous owner. Turns out that guy was under investigation for some shady stuff, though nothing was ever proven. That was the final straw for us. After all that, the claw marks, the hidden attic hatch, the creepy tunnel, the banging, and the sketchy history, we got the hell out of that house as fast as we could. This all went down over about a month and a half, and I don't ever want to know what was making those noises, why the landlord split so quick, why they gave us that creepy repairman's number, or what the fuck went on in that place. Just thinking about it still makes my stomach turn. We moved out, and I've tried to put it behind me, but that house was seriously messed up. I've always been into spooky stuff, horror movies, paranormal TV shows, you name it. As a kid, I get scared out of my mind, but I love the adrenaline rush. 2 years ago, I went through some personal stuff that kind of rewired me, and I stopped being afraid of the paranormal. After that, I went all in watching, reading, and listening to creepy stories pretty much nonstop. I'd always had weird experiences here and there, but I was too freaked out to talk about them back then. Maybe I'm more open to it now, or maybe diving into this stuff so much makes you more, I don't know, susceptible. Like you're inviting it in or something. Anyway, this particular story happened about 2 months ago in San Diego, and it's one I can't shake. Me and 3 of my closest friends were in town for a concert. We booked a hotel room the night before so we could crash early and be rested for the show. I was sharing a bed with my best friend, and my other two friends were in the bed next to us with a nightstand between. We were beat, so we hit the sack pretty early. In the middle of the night, I woke up out of nowhere, heart racing. In the corner of the room, I saw this huge, dark figure just standing there, staring right at me. I mean, straight into my eyes. The air felt heavy, like there was this thick, dark energy pressing down on the room. I knew instantly something was seriously wrong. I must have grabbed my best friend's arm and squeezed the hell out of it, because she woke up all confused and pissed. She later told me I was yelling at her to stop staring at me and scaring me, to just let me sleep. Thing is, I don't remember saying any of that. All I remember is that shadow figure locked on me. We ended up causing a bit of a scene, shouting, freaking out, but we calmed down eventually and got back into bed. The other two friends didn't even wake up. They were out cold the whole time. I was scared shitless, honestly. I don't think I've ever been more terrified in my life, but I didn't want to freak out my best friend even more, so I kept my mouth shut about what I saw and tried to go back to sleep. Lying there, I started giving myself a pep talk. I told myself not to let this thing get to me. I've heard if you build up a mental wall and don't let fear take over, these things lose their power and go away. So I focused hard on that, trying to push the fear out with everything I had. But then, out of nowhere, I felt another wave of that same heavy, dark energy. This time it wasn't aimed at me. It was moving toward one of my other friends, the one sleeping in the bed across the nightstand. I don't know how I knew, but I just knew this thing was connected to her. Looking at her made my skin crawl, like the air around her was wrong. I kept repeating my mental wall trick, doubling down, and after a few minutes, the feeling faded. I finally managed to fall back asleep. The next morning, we were getting ready for the concert, and I started telling my best friend about what happened. Before I could even get into the details, my other friend, the one I'd sensed a connection with, came up to me. She looked me dead in the eye and said what I'd experienced was because of her. She said she knew she had a demon attached to her, that it sometimes showed itself, and she was sorry it freaked me out. She said she wasn't scared of it anymore because she'd been dealing with it for years. I was floored. I hadn't told her or anyone else about the connection I'd felt, but she just confirmed it like it was nothing. Later, she told us that when she was 12, she played with a Ouija board by herself and thinks that's when this thing latched onto her. The craziest part, I knew there was a connection between her and that shadow before she said a word. I can't explain how, but it was like this gut feeling, strong and undeniable. That night in the hotel room shook me, but her coming clean about it made it even weirder. I still don't fully understand what happened, but it stuck with me ever since. When I was 8, I lived in a townhouse about a 10-minute walk from my school. Every day, I come home alone and have the place to myself for about an hour and a half before my parents or older brother got back. They worked, and my brother went to a different school, so I'd use that time to plop down on the couch and watch cartoons. I love that alone time, honestly. I was raised in a super Christian household, really sheltered. I get in trouble for watching stuff like Power Rangers because the bad guys were too evil. My parents drilled into me that when you die, you go straight to heaven or hell. No in between, no ghosts. That's what I believed, or at least what I was supposed to believe. One day, I came home after school, same routine as always, ready to sink into the couch with my cartoons. But this time, when I walked in, there was something in the corner by the doorframe. It looked like a textbook Grim Reaper, long, tattered black robe, skeletal face, no side, but the creepiest part was its grin. This wide, unsettling grin. like it was mocking me. I'd never seen The Nightmare Before Christmas or anything like that, so I had no frame of reference for this thing. I just stood there, heart pounding, staring at it. I was freaked out, but my brain couldn't process it. I literally said out loud, "Wow, my imagination is really fucked up." I kept telling myself I was just a stupid kid with a stupid imagination trying to make sense of it. Ghosts weren't real, right? That's what I'd been taught. But then I started seeing it every day. Every single day after school, it was there, standing in the same spot, just staring at me. It never said a word, but if I looked at it, it would tilt its head, like it was saying, "I see you." It always disappeared when my family got home, like clockwork. This went on for 3 months straight. At first, I tried to brush it off, but it started getting more aggressive. The more uneasy I felt, the worse it got. I was questioning my sanity every day, telling myself, ghosts aren't real, so what the hell is this? I'd argue with myself, stuck in this loop of fear and denial, because what I was seeing didn't fit with what I'd been taught. It started cutting me off, like it was toying with me. I'd get so uncomfortable on the couch that I'd want to run to my room upstairs, but then it would move, slowly at first, like it was underwater, then it'd zip, almost teleport to the staircase. It would lean over the steps, grinning that awful grin, blocking my way. I'd be stuck on the couch, frozen, with this skeletal thing staring me down. The way it moved reminded me of those ghosts in 13 Ghosts. You know, that creepy, jerky motion. It felt like it wanted something from me, but I had no idea what. I was too scared to tell anyone. I thought my parents wouldn't believe me, that they'd think I was just a dumb kid making stuff up. I was also terrified my brother would call me a wuss and tell everyone at school to make fun of me. Plus, the whole thing just felt so bizarre. I didn't even know how to bring it up. One day, I walked home through about 6 inches of snow, dreading what I knew was waiting for me. Sure enough, there it was, same spot, same grin. I sat on the couch, scared shitless like always, but this time it went further. It moved right in front of my face, so close I could feel the air change. It raised its bony hands, like it was about to grab me, hovering them over my face before zipping back to its spot. I lost it. I screamed louder than I ever have, bolted out the front door, and just stood there in the snow shaking. When my parents got home, they found me outside, crying my eyes out. They asked what was wrong, and I just blurted it all out, expecting them to laugh or check under my bed for monsters. I started with, "I know I'm just a stupid kid with a stupid imagination, and you're never going to believe me," but to my shock, they didn't laugh. They looked at each other, dead serious, and said, "Why didn't you tell us?" That scared me more than the figure did. They sounded like they knew something. My parents never told me scary stuff. They kept me sheltered for a reason. But this time, they sat me down and told me the truth, like I was grown. They said the people who lived in a house before us had a little girl who was demon-possessed. Apparently, she took her own life in our house, and now this demon, or whatever it was after me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My parents grabbed a bottle of baby oil, prayed over it, and put a dab in the shape of a cross over every door and window in the house. After that, I didn't see the figure inside anymore, but I'd catch glimpses of it outside, staring through the kitchen window sometimes. That was the first time I saw it outside. It showed up a couple more times, a week later, then 2 weeks after that, and then it was gone for good. I don't care if anyone believes me. I know what I saw. For 3 months, that thing was in my house every day, and no one can take that away from me. I still don't know if it was my 8-year-old brain playing tricks or something truly paranormal, but it felt real as hell. That experience changed me, and I'll never forget it.